So today is January 9th, 2019. We're at the Robbins Museum in Middleboro with archaeologist Craig Chartier, who just gave a talk on the Jamar site in Middleboro. Craig, what did you tell the folks tonight?
We talked about the Jamar site, which we excavated back in 2006 to 2008. It's located right on the Nemasket River in Middleboro, right in this general area here. And what we found there was what we think is a Native American village. We found storage pits and we found cache pits. And one of the really interesting things, because we were opening up big areas and exploring big areas, we found what we think were a lot of different Native American house forms, like 68 different houses, potential houses that we identified out there. Many different sizes. We had small houses that were only maybe about 6 feet apart, 6 feet in diameter. We had long houses. The one long house we found was at least 59 feet long, and it continued outside the area that we were investigating, so it could have been even longer than that. And we also had round houses, which are more typical, like the ones they describe in the historical records, like the Pilgrims talk about going into when they were on Cape Cod, or they talk about at various times throughout New England. The longhouse, we think, could have been either a ceremonial house, they would have harvest feasts, like in the fall, and they would erect these really large houses that everyone would get together, maybe up to 100 feet long, get together and stay in for a period of time. Even Mary Rowlandson in the 1670s described staying in one of these longhouses during King Philip's War. And it could also have been a sachem's house, a Native American chief's house, where he could have had his entire family, or it could have been a winter house. We think we found evidence of at least 2 hearths inside of it, concentration of firecracks rocks inside the house. We think could represent 2 different fireplaces that were in the house. So we know that the different houses had different names depending on the number of fires that they had on them. So if it just had 2 fires, it would be a Nisquito. If it had 3 fires, it would be a Shwishkito. And if it was longer than that, we know that the really long ones were called Quinnecamucks, the 100-foot long ones.
And what kind of food remains did you find at the site?
We found lots and lots of corn, carbonized corn kernels and corn cob fragments. We found lots of alewife, bones and scales. We found bones from dogs. We found bones from deer, bones from bears. I think we had some tautog bones. We had shellfish, specifically surf clams were the most abundant shellfish, which, of course, they don't occur inland here, so we think they probably had to have come from out in Plymouth. So we know there are historical documents about people living in Middleboro, moving out to Plymouth in the springtime, so it could be evidence of that, of people actually moving there and then bringing back things like the surf clams back to the site.
What's the oldest artifact you found on the site?
The oldest thing we found were 2 bifurcate base points, which date back to about 9,000 to 10,000 years ago.
Wow. And what is the most recent artifact you found?
Most recent thing we found for the Native Americans was probably the Lavana points, which date to the late woodland, to contact periods. We also did find a foundation for a house dating back to the early 18th century. We think it belonged to the Wood family who lived out there at that time.
And this site is located on the Nemasket River. Is the Nemasket River prolific with Native American sites?
It is an amazing, amazing river for having Native American sites on it. There's our site. We also know that Kurt Hoffman's Little League site is on the Nemasket River. It's another important site, the Wampanoag site. There's another site called the Riverside site, which is sort of just down the street from where we were digging. That's another important Native American site, another large, important Native American site. So there's lots and lots of sites on that Nemasket River.
And the herring ran on the Nemasket River by this site?
Yes, we think they did. Yeah, we think they did. This is it's located fairly close to where Oliver Mills is, which is the herring run nowadays, and we think there was probably a herring run in the past as well. So it could have been a location where they were gathering those herring that we had.
And I know this site was slated for development. Tell me what happened and who owns the site now?
The site was slated for development. It was going to be a housing subdivision, but because of the recession we had, the owner of the property decided to wait, to hold off until the economy got better. And during that time, the Archaeological Conservancy came forward And as a result of the work that the Public Archaeology Lab did out at the site, and Diana Doucette, working with the Archaeological Conservancy, got them to actually purchase the site. And that'll be finalized this year in 2019. And the Archaeological Conservancy will own the site and preserve it in perpetuity.
Wonderful. It sounds like a very big village. Are there many sites with that many housing structures on it around?
Not in this area. I mean, you go in other places like New York, you can see sites similar to this with lots of houses in one spot. But this is the only site around here in Massachusetts, in southeastern Massachusetts, that I know of. There might be something similar down in Connecticut as well, amongst the Pequots. But it's the only site in this area that I know of that's this large and this intense.
Well, thank you for a great talk tonight.
You're welcome.